What's up? What's up? It's Newbies to Movies. I'm Tyler,
And I'm Justin.
and this is a podcast where we like to talk about new movies that we're watching. And this week we have a special guest here, Alec Fry. Um, Alec, if you just want to introduce yourself and then what kind of movies you like.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Alec. Grew up with Tyler. I've been playing on the same basketball team since like middle school, essentially. So known each other for a while. Currently living in Vegas as well with Tyler. So nice surprise.
Yeah.
Big movies I'm into, definitely critically acclaimed stuff. Like Christopher Nolan, definitely. I think he's my favorite director. So anything that he has to play out, definitely a big fan of his. Big into kind of like what's new out there right now, like one battle after another, I thought was really good. So I'm kind of new stuff as well. I thought this year was a really good year for movies.
Yeah, I agree. Especially compared to last year. Me and Justin were talking about the best picture nominees last year compared to this year. And it's just like, this year is just heads up above. Like last year was just kind of a crappy year
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Cool. So, how we like to start each podcast is just talking about like some shout out of something that we've been watching for the past week, either a movie or show. So Justin, if you want to get started.
Yeah. I finally found some time to get into some shows I've been wanting to watch. So I started Gen V this week, but I also finished through Marvel's new series, Wonder Man. I thought it was pretty great. It was definitely a nice curveball from Marvel. Not a lot of superhero or powers type things in there, but it was like a good grounded story. A lot of deep themes, just trying to get through, like chasing your dream is like the big thing. But it was pretty good, and it was refreshing that it was kind of like 30 minutes long per episode. So it wasn't like I had to sit down and, watch 8 hours of television to understand the story. It was pretty nice.
Yeah. What I was told, I mean, him as a character in the comics, he's a super confusing character. So
Yeah.
I was wondering how they would do it. But a lot of people were saying they don't understand why they released it all at one time. But I think that kind of show, I don't think would have, like every week being a release, I don't think many people would have watched it as much
Yeah.
as like, rather than like be able to binge through it.
Mhm.
I'm interested by it because I think most of their shows haven't been the worst other than Secret Wars. Secret Wars was
Yeah.
horrible. One of the worst shows I've ever watched in my life. But like WandaVision, Loki was pretty good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was pretty good. So I thought that was. What about you, Alec?
Currently I'm rewatching Game of Thrones, actually.
Mhm.
So there was a summer break in between a year in college that I watched it all in one summer, like powered it through.
Yeah.
And I missed some stuff, but I'm rewatching it now kind of slowly, and there's definitely a lot of things that I didn't pick up before that I am now, kind of a lot more like foreshadowing for sure, especially now that I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting to rewatch, I think, a second time.
Mm-hmm. I remember I watched all of Game of Thrones through right before like the last season came out because I was really interested in it. And then I caught up to it right before the last 3 episodes of season 8, I think it was. Yeah. And to this day, I think the last season, it just like left such a bad stain in my mouth where I don't even want to go back to watching it. But
Yeah, I think it's definitely like some people or half the people fucking hate it, and then half the people just love it.
yeah, exactly. So the shout out for mine, I've been watching Friday Night Lights, the show, ever since watching the movie. I'm through halfway through season 2. It's 16, 18 episode seasons, an hour each. So it's quite something to get through.
Wow.
Yeah. It was really huge in like 2009, 2010 when it came out. But the show, we'll get into it when we talk about the movie, but like the show does a lot better job at what the themes are trying to go off of the movie. Other movies, I haven't been watching many other movies just because I've been trying to get through the show because I'm really intrigued. It's got me in a lockhold. And then, of course, The Pit season 2. It's on episode 4 now. That's like a every week release, but like it's so good. And it's so like a bunch of YouTube like doctors like release like what they think about each episode and like if it's accurate or not. And it's pretty much like them being like, yeah, this is like 100% accurate. Like, which is like pretty cool to see like a medical show that doesn't try to just like dramatize it and it actually does their homework.
Yeah,
cool. So this week's theme is football movies, and I'm just like right in time for the Super Bowl week and between the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. That's why we wanted to do it now. We could ask around like what you guys think of in general about like football movies. But for me, I was a little surprised by looking up them that there aren't as many football movies as you would think. For some reason, I thought it was like a way bigger genre. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, football movies are always a very interesting thing. We'll get into it later with the sports draft, I'm sure. Sports draft or sports movies in general, you can kind of work on so many different kinds of themes, right? Whether it's kind of like a team sport or individual sport. We often see the team sport side of it in football movies, but not necessarily. You have things like Draft Day as well. That's a very individual story, but just exploring those themes through a sport, a game that we all come together and play, has always been really interesting, and seeing how it's done very different ways, I think has been cool.
What about you, Alec?
Yeah. I think football movies do a good job of like displaying like an underdog story, or like a lot of times you see in sports movies where like the odds are stacked against them and then somehow, some way they pull it through. So I think it's pretty cool to see. And then football, especially just because it's such a challenging sport that requires a lot of like your focus. I think it shows a lot of like the mental stuff too behind it, like what goes in, like what you won't see on the field. But I think football movies in general do a pretty good job of showing like how hard work really does pay off. So that's what's cool about football movies in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think most of sports movies can fall into like these cliches of like just a lot of like not original storylines of like them failing and then having to come back up, or like them like being underachievers like the whole time and then like having to like prove themselves throughout the whole movie. But then like you could get a little bit darker with like some other types of themes that I think are better in some other football movies and or just in other like widely acclaimed sports movies compared to like some of like the more cliche sports. So the movies that we did this week were Friday Night Lights and Rudy. Two interesting, but they're two very typical kind of football movies that you would see. Rudy coming out in like the 90s, and then Friday Night Lights coming out 2004, but Friday Night Lights is based off of like a actual season in the 80s. First, we'll start off with Rudy. So Rudy is a story about this underdog guy, pretty small guy that really has like been underachieving his whole life, and then one of his best friends dies in like the mill that he was working in, and then he decides to pretty much change his trajectory of his life after that to try to go to the University of Notre Dame. And through that, he's like also trying to play football because he's like known for just like overworking everyone else, like outworking everyone else there. Yeah, I think that sums up like a very generalized sum of that plot. But the plot, I gave a 6 out of 10 because I feel like the first 30 to 40 minutes was like really well set up. And then it felt like they just sped away like his entire time while he was at Notre Dame to the next thing you know, they're like, everybody's turning in their jersey. And it's like, all you saw was like 2 practices of him getting just beat up. And then they're like, oh yeah, like he deserves this. And it was like, I don't know. I don't think we felt like we saw enough to be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, he deserves to play. What did you guys think?
I agree. The time at community college felt like it dragged and dragged and dragged. And I know it was, there to teach him a lesson that, no matter how many times you fail, you got to keep going. But it was just getting really old fast. And then finally he's at Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden he's on the field. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. The timeline was definitely kind of shaky at the very, like, not the end of the movie, but the latter half, I would say, like, because he's spent, like you say, like the first part of the movie, like trying to actually get there. And then once he actually got to like the Holy Cross River, it seemed like it took a half hour, 4 years of like hard work. And then all of a sudden he's a senior. Make the team. It's like, what happened? So definitely pretty.
Yeah, it just summed up like 2 years into like 30 minutes. And I was just like, okay. And then like, we're supposed to feel that. Another thing I have, the problem was at the very beginning of the movie when he's playing like high school football, he's pretty trash anyways. Like he gets cooked a lot. Yeah. And then he's like clearly not good at football. And then and he plays like quarterback, and then they put him on D-line for Notre Dame, and they're like, yep, hear me out. We got this guy. I'll say it. Like Rudy was just like not a good football player. I don't know how else to say it. But yeah, I think not to like go into like too much about the story of the guy, because I think the story of the guy was a lot different than how it was played out. But yeah, I think it was just too speed up on the back half for me personally. Getting into characters, I gave it a 6 out of 10 as well. I think Rudy was like the main one that you really cared about, and then like the groundskeeper, like those two, I actually like felt myself like actually caring about like their background and stuff. Everyone else, even Jon Favreau's character, which he's just like nervous to talk to girls, but he's like this really smart dude. And then he just pops up at the end of the movie, like out of a limo. And it's like, it's been a year. What do you mean? Yeah. What did you guys think of some of the other characters?
No, I thought the groundskeeper was really cool because, at the beginning of the movie, you're like, why is he helping this kid? Like nobody every other character we've met is just like shitting on Rudy and wants nothing to do with him, except this one
Yeah.
guy is like helping. So I thought that resolution was really cool. You kind of find out why he saw a little
Yeah.
bit of himself in him. But the original coach for Notre Dame, what an a-hole. He promised his kid starting time knowing he was going to leave. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about how bad coaches in both of these movies, but just overall, even the replacement coach
Yeah.
isn't that good. And then
I would have liked to
Vince
see a
Vaughn's.
little bit more like,
Yeah, go ahead,
so I was
Alex.
just going to say, the character development for me was a little bit interesting because, like, at first when he joined the team, it seemed like everybody was out to get him. And then, again, talking about the timeline, they all just, like, loved him all of a sudden. And it's a little bit interesting to me just because, like, they were talking about how he had the heart and, like, you know, like, you need to chill out a little bit. And, like, it's the last practice of the year. You know, obviously he wasn't going to do that. But how did their mindset change of him to, like, automatically, like, loving this dude? I wish I would have seen
Yeah.
that a little bit more, especially from players because, again, they're all, like, D1 guys, like, scholarship players. So it would have been cool to see like a little bit more like behind the scene part of that, I think.
Yeah, you're right, because they were getting mad about how hard he works in practice because it was making them look bad. And then all of a sudden they were like, actually, Rudy's kind of a dog. And
Yeah.
then it just flipped 180.
I mean, yeah, we all played sports, and we remember certain guys in practice would go way too hard, but then like in
Yeah.
games would just be trash. So it's like I feel like Rudy was definitely one of those guys. Then they were just like, "Yo, like chill out, bro." But yeah, and Vince Vaughn's character was really confusing too. Like, what a big name actor! I feel like this is before he got big, so like that's just why he pops up in this movie. But then he's just like a let down of a recruit, and then he hates Rudy, and then you don't see him until like the final stretch of the movie, like the final 10 minutes, and he's like, you know what? Let's do like a crazy touchdown play just so Rudy could play. And it's like, what? Yeah, the same. Yeah, getting a cinematography, I gave it a 5 out of 10 because I don't think there was anything especially bad. I think some of the scenes, like pulling up on Notre Dame's like stadium, I guess is cool. Like if the stadium was like a little better looking. Um, it's not a cool stadium in my opinion. I've been to that campus. I think it's a mid stadium. I get like all the significance, but like again, like you want to talk about how great the whole movie is all revolved around Rudy loving Notre Dame. And then whenever they show the campus, it's just like a dreary campus that is just ugly. And I don't know. I felt that they could have like made it a little bit, more attracting of a campus.
Yeah, done something with the camera work at least. It seemed like they filmed it in the fall most of the time, but yeah, like you said, it just kind of seemed dreary and gross. At least liven it up a little bit, or the locker room kind of looked old and run down. Everything just looked beat up.
And then getting into dialogue, I gave it a 7 out of 10 just because there are a lot of like good quotes from this, especially from Rudy himself. Like, man was just lucky he was also raising it up. Just like to say that as well. Like,
Yeah.
okay, he could talk to some girls, and I was like, hey, good for him, man. Sometimes a winner is a dreamer who just won't quit. I was like, all right, word. And then my whole life, people have been telling me what I could and couldn't do. I've always listened to them, believed in what they said. I don't want to do that anymore. And then pretty much Rudy is like just coming out with quotes here, left and right. I feel like they spent half their time just writing this dialogue and be like, let's get them to like create some crazy quotes. Forget like the actual, like the streamline of the movie, but like, what do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think Sean Astin did a pretty good job at delivering those lines. I think he actually did a decent job at displaying like emotion too. I think of the scene when he goes in the coach's office and he's kind of like, look, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I suck at football, but I'm trying to do this for my dream. I thought he did pretty well. I think he was the best actor in this of anyone.
Yeah, I think that goes into like showing sympathy as like someone that's watching the movie. Like this is all that he's ever wanted, and even if Notre Dame has a crappy campus and it's
Yeah.
not really in a good place, like definitely very cool to see like someone care that much. I guess go for it. I guess so. The dialogue definitely like from his point of view, and then honestly like I thought his dad also played a little bit of a factor because like it was kind of trying to prove it to his dad because that's all he ever want and like uh kind of defeating the like the blue collar mindset of like you're just going to work at the mill for 30 years and that's your life. But I thought that was pretty cool that he was trying to do it for his dad. And so a lot of the quotes like were trying to where he's like talking to the coach or talking to the groundskeeper, like he is going to make the football team and he didn't have any doubt that
Yeah.
he would.
Yeah. I wish there was more with the other walk on guy that he was playing with, that his father was a player. and that's the only reason why he was there was because his father was, and then like he only wanted to stay on the team because of Rudy, but like you only saw like 2 interactions with them. But you're
Yeah.
like, I thought that was a relationship that I think they could have gone a little bit more in depth with, and like had a little
I
bit
think
more like care.
I think we'll see that with a lot of sports movies too, especially these big team movies. It's really hard to kind of have all these different caricatures on the team and get, certain screen time with them to truly understand them in, two
Yeah.
hours. It's a lot of people to really dive into.
Yeah, definitely for football because
Yeah.
it's such a big team compared to like basketball movies. It's a little bit more in depth because it's a smaller team. Like there's a lot of basketball movies that I could just think of, and even like sometimes in baseball movies they like specifically leave out half the team just because that would be too much for them to like fully get into it. Getting into acting, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought it was again pretty well done from like the Aston himself. I thought he was a really well, like Sean Astin. Everything else was borderline just like all right.
Yeah.
I think Astin, he was also in Goonies, and then he was also in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So like he's just part of these big movies. And then he was in Stranger Things, so like he just finds his way into like these big like pop culture moments, which is quite interesting for like such a short guy that plays an actor.
Yeah. I thought the
Yeah, I
acting
would.
was pretty good from Sean Astin specifically. Nothing else really stood out to me. The one thing that did stand out was his brother just kind of always sat there like snarking at Rudy. He didn't have many lines. He was just like a snarky guy.
Yeah, I would say very mid overall from
Yeah.
like the supporting group, like just mid, like nothing bad, but nothing really too special either. I thought the the groundskeeper, like I thought he did a better than average job, just because like I didn't even realize until he said that he was a player that could be a possibility. So I thought that was pretty cool, kind of showing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, very mid overall, I think.
Yeah, I agree. This same director did Hoosiers, which I don't know if either of you have seen Hoosiers before. Very like similar like cinematography style. The difference is Hoosiers has Gene Hackman, which is like one of the better actors of like his time, like the 80s, 90s. He also played Lex Luthor for Superman way back. And you could tell in that movie that like Gene Hackman kind of just takes over the movie, where I think this movie is kind of just missing on like a really, really great actor just to be able to like kind of like carry the movie. Nothing to get Sean Astin. I just think it's a different level.
Yeah.
Sound effects, I gave it a 7 out of 10, just because this is like where you talk about like cliches of like like movies, like the like the music behind like these big scenes for them is just like you pretty much see this in every sports movie. Like that is very cliche. It's just like uplifting music that's just kind of leading them on, and then I don't know. Again, I don't think anything crazy special, but like I don't know, it's exactly what you expected.
Yeah. It felt very Hallmark-esque,
Yeah,
especially the football scenes,
yeah,
especially when Rudy got on the field, the music's building, that whole thing.
hmm yeah. For
Very, very
set
juicy.
design, set design, I gave it an 8 out of 10 just because it was clearly set on Notre Dame campus. But again, this goes into like, you guys could make it look a little bit better. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just like in the 80s or the 90s when they made this, they were like, oh, let's not worry about it. But I thought definitely missed a chance to make the campus a lot more attractive. I guess it's in Indiana. So like, at the end of the day, it's pretty boring, but still.
Yeah, to me, it looked fine. I mean, we talked about the set itself. I don't know. It was like when he was working on the field with the grounds crew, the field looked bright, the stadium looked cool, but then as soon as you stuck people in there, it just got all gray and kind of gross looking. I don't know if I
Yeah.
was the only one that saw that.
Yeah. No, I definitely saw that. Because the dad was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I was like, poor guy, man. This poor guy. Somebody got to go take him to like Myrtle Beach or something, and he'll be shocked.
Yeah, I don't know if you
What
guys
did you think of this?
noticed when he first got to like off the bus in South Bend, and he went to go talk to like Father Kavanaugh, I think was his name, and
Yeah.
then he was like walking around and being accepted. He's going to Notre Dame. Like it was like very gloomy, and like I think he was walking by the lake or like a pond or something, and that was like his entrance into like Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like how they're like portrayed it, like he could have gone by like you know the football field or like something as like his entrance. But I thought that kind of goes into set design. Just like I think they could have done a little bit better, like waited for like a clear day or like
Yeah.
midday or something. Him walking, and then that was it. Oh, okay. Where's Notre Dame?
Yeah. 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 For directing, I gave it a 4 out of 10, just because I think a lot of these problems that we're talking about for this movie is because of the director. It seems like he wasn't trying to make this like he took like this great story about this guy and then like took away like a very important part, which was when he was actually at Notre Dame. Like I feel like he just like kind of passed over that time and just gave us like the whole like build up to it. And then also like it just seemed like a very boring way to film the movie. That was like he had a great opportunity because I bet Notre Dame like, oh, you're gonna hype up our university in like this big Hollywood movie. Heck yeah, use our campus, and he could have made it a lot better than what he did with it. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't know many other things that he's done either, so maybe it's just kind of an experience thing. I know you said he did the other movie as well, but
Yeah, Hoosiers, I think is like a way better movie in the way where it's also set in Indiana, obviously with the name Hoosiers, but it's like a high school basketball team. But it actually like gets into that small town vibe, and then like it, like makes Indiana look better than probably what it looks like, and then like how big basketball is in Indiana. I think that's also why it's loved so much. Getting into editing, I gave it a 4 out of 10. Just wasn't again. I think it's like keep hitting on the same things that the problems with this movie. I think it can also be accounted to with this as well. What do you guys think?
yeah, I mean, it was fine. The scene cuts were fine. Nothing really stood out to me. Like we said about I think the campus overall could have used a lot of editing. Just add some like hues over the lens or something to me, in my opinion. Like just make it like a brighter, happier looking thing. It was very gloomy all the time, and I know it's Indiana, but still.
That name, yeah, I mean, that's like the timeline issue that we're talking about with like
Yeah.
how he's all of a sudden in 2 years made it to the football team and Notre Dame and all that. I think you could have done a little bit, or they could have done a little bit better in terms of trying to figure out what would be best in terms of like necessary and like showing him put in the work and getting good grades and that kind of thing. I think it would have been better to maybe see a little bit more of that. That way you weren't confused as the viewer as to like where you are in the movie.
Hmm. Yeah. I wonder if like for people that are Notre Dame fans, how much they love this movie. Like if this is like their favorite movie of all time, or if
Yeah.
I need to ask a Notre Dame fan, like, what's your opinion on Rudy, and like just let him cook for a little bit because they're probably just like, it's the best thing ever made.
He's a hero.
Yeah. For theme, I gave it 8 out of 10, just because I think the themes in this movie are really like important and also like really crucial. Obviously, this is set in the 90s, so like filmed in the 90s, so you could see a lot of these themes being built up in like later 2000s movies, not just football, but any other sports movies about like never giving up and never like quitting on yourself and like always like trying to inspire. I think those are the biggest things to take away. And then it's always like it's not about the size of the dog, it's the size of the heart. That's also a big part of this that they're trying to go out with this movie. But yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a overall 7.2 out of 10. I like the movie overall. Obviously, I think there's a lot of things that could have been worked on. Obviously, it's early 90s movies. I can't imagine the budget was too high for this either, but some would call it a classic. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, overall, it was a good watch, but I don't think I would want to necessarily have to watch it again. It was
Yeah.
one of the feel good movies that, again, the underdog stories. Um, it was a good movie. It was just a little bit, again, I don't know if it has to do with like the timeline or the like the year that it was uh produced and stuff like that. Because I wonder if it was produced this year, how different it would be with like what we're talking about with like the set design and the gloominess and stuff. I wonder if it would have been a little bit better. Definitely one of your like classic feel good not movies.
Yeah. I gave it a 6.0 out of 10 or 660 out of 100. I wasn't very high on this movie. As we were talking about it, I took down some ratings than what I even had it at just because I was like, man, I don't think I'll ever rewatch this again. I think I'm a little biased in the way where I just really don't like Notre Dame either. And like this just seems like an advertisement for Notre Dame for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I think there's definitely some good parts to it, but definitely not as big of a classic as what a lot of people say it is. Cool. Awesome. So that was Rudy. Um, now let's get into Friday Night Lights. Justin's got this. Be prepared. He hates this movie. So yeah. It's actually a true story. It was even crazier. Yeah, that's like actually what happened. They went to a random truck stop because they didn't want to tell anybody where it was and did a coin flip like that. Like that's actually what happened in 1988. I think is wild. I like it because I think one, since it is based off a true story, and this is like one of the bigger sports movies that I've seen hasn't tried to like hyperbolize like parts of their season. So Boobie Miles was a real person that got hurt. he got hurt in the preseason game, not even the first game. So even like a worse coaching decision to get him hurt in the preseason game. I mean, first off, they're up by like how much? And then they want to put in their third string running back. Coach Gary Gaines is maybe one of the worst coaches I've ever seen. And then he puts in his star running back. He's like, oh, he can't find his helmet. Let me not put in another player. Let me put in our star running back. And then he fucking tears his ACL. And then he's like, oh, and then when the coach tells him, oh yeah, he probably tore his ACL. All right, guys, he'll be back in a week. What? Why would you lie to them? why would you lie? There's no point. He does more than that. You're like the biggest coach in that town. If you tell me you couldn't find any good coach or like any good doctor to like actually check up on him and like vet him through you as well, like use your power, man. Like, what do you need? Kevin Gates is horrible. You're horrible coach. But anyways, moving on from just that part, the plot doesn't go as into the characters as I would like it for sure, which we could talk about when we do characters. But I do think it was interesting how they followed the season the whole time. And then like throughout like the big thematic points is that, like, this is like the peak of their life. Like nothing after this year is going to get any better and it's just going to get worse. That's what everyone keeps telling them. Right at the beginning of the movie, they're at like a hamburger place and he's like, oh, can I take a picture with you? With my daughter? He's like, this is the best your life ever going to be. 17 is your peak. After this, you're a failure. And then they had like the father of one of the running backs also keep telling him that, like you'll never beat this. You'll never be this. So I think that's like the biggest thematic points that I think throughout the plot that they did not miss on. That I feel like that was kept being brought up again and again. Yeah. So Irie Christian, this is his only movie he's ever done because he was a real football player that he just like that was just casted upon from the movie. So he played on TCU, I think, as linebacker during that time the movie came out, and then he just did the movie, and then that's it. Yeah, yeah. You don't see any lines until the end of the movie when he just gets pissed. I think the characters are like the biggest weak point. Now watching the show, you could see like how well it is when you like go. I think that's the biggest point about this movie and from the book as well, is that they just don't go too in depth, which I think another 30 minutes of like actually learning where these kids come from and like why football is such an like escape for a lot of them. Because I think that's another point to it, is that football is their escape from like, because there's like one point where they're all talking in like the parking lot and he's like, I don't feel 17. And like we're in high school, we're seniors. And I feel like I'm like 30. I don't feel like I'm this young. I don't feel like I have my whole life ahead of me. Everyone keeps telling me like I don't have anything ahead of me. I think that would have been way more like better done if like you saw what their home lives were actually like, other than Bill and Z, his father just like constantly beating him up.
Yeah, I thought honestly the way that they portrayed how football was everything to them, I thought was done really well. Just like talking about the alcoholic dad, talking about like a booby and how he like football was like he had that breakdown in the car with his uncle. Like I thought that they did a really good job of showing that football is everything to such a small town, and I think it's pretty realistic too. Like in Texas, like high school football is everything, and like this is such a small town out in West Texas. I thought it was done, my opinion, pretty well in terms of showing that like football isn't just like a game to these guys, like it's literally their life and like the heartbeat of like the town. I thought that was pretty cool to see, especially being like in Texas, like kind of witnessing that too. Like definitely very well done in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought it was more like a camcorder footage, like kind of showing what they were trying to do. I didn't think they were trying to go after like what Hell and High Water No Country, where they were trying to give like that gritty style. I think it was like more so camcorder of like that high school feeling. Cause like if you remember early 2000s, that was like a big thing. Once Blair Witch came out, like almost there was like 5 movies every year until like 2008 that were trying to just do movies like this. They kind of look like this. The show looks also a lot like this. I think it's a little bit better done. My biggest take on, I actually really like the cinematography in it. The only thing I don't like is the shakiness. There's like some points of the scenes it was like super shaky. And I was like, all right, you're kind of like, I get what you're trying to do, but also like, dude, like hold the camera still for God's sakes. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this is set design or cinematography, but the football scenes were also shot really well. What do you think,
I
Alec?
kind of agree with you in terms of like the hue and like what they were trying to go for in like the West Texas gritty kind of camera style. But I liked how they kept going back to like the oil rigs or like the how they were trying to show like, you know, very in your face, kind of like this is West Texas and this is such a small town and this is like,
Yeah.
you know, where they are. And so they did a good job, I think, in the beginning of the movie, kind of setting that up, but then at the end of the movie, when they were about to leave, like again, like the oil rigs were like everywhere. So well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, the whole movie, he doesn't really give like this motivational like aura to him until like halftime of the state. And then it's about friendship. And it's like, okay, man, like, all right. I think what like Christian does, what he ends up doing, that like when he like goes off, I think that meant more to the team than what the coach said. Yeah, I think like him like just yelling at everybody when he's like usually a calm guy. I also thought the quote of like him coming off the field in the first quarter being like, "Oh, they're fast, they're everywhere, they're fast." You already said that, and it's like I thought that was pretty funny as well. And then Billingsley being like, "We're gonna get drunk, we're gonna get laid, and we're gonna win state, but not tonight." And I was like, "Word up, man! Hell yeah!" Yeah, I think it fit right into like the Friday Night Lights. I mean, it's that's what the movie's off of, but it plays really just into that factor of like high school football feel to it. And again, like set design, editing, cinematography. The football, this is like probably like one of the better done like football like scenes in like any movie I've seen. I just think it's really well done. The only thing to go against that is all the actors are like clearly in their like late 20s, but like, hey, what can you do? They're clearly not 17, but it's also made in 2004, where that's all they were doing was just casting like 20-year-old people to play high school people.
And well, what's funny too about that is they had to like take it a step further when they played the Dallas team, and like
Yeah,
the guys with mustaches and beards, and literally like they probably were 30.
yeah,
They were trying to
yeah,
show just like how much more tougher team they were, and like yeah, like you kind of screwed yourself when you were casting all these like guys in your mid 20s, because now you have to go a step further and show these people how old they really are.
yeah.
Like that guy was
So
in high school for sure.
yeah. In the book and like the real story, they lose in the semifinals, so they don't lose in the state championship. Dallas Carter was like a real team they were that stacked. They won the state that year, but then they had one guy that was ineligible on their team, so their whole entire state championship was taken away. There's like this huge scandal in Texas about Dallas Carter. So I thought that was also interesting to just like that they were inserted in that movie, but then like there's like a whole like another like documentary about Dallas Carter and like all the scandals that they went through and why their state championships were just taken away. I think, well, Tim McGraw, first off, he's not a bad actor. He's not. I think, yeah, I mean, I think he's gotten his roles because of this movie and how well he was in it. Billy Bob, I just think isn't a convincing coach. I just don't think he has like the aura to him that like the show coach does, like the Coach Taylor in the show does. He's just, I mean, Kyle Chandler, so I think he's just a better actor as well. But like he just talks like a football guy. Coach Gage, you would think like
Yeah, seen him like in Bad Santa versus like this is like completely different. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Like when
yeah,
you say not very motivating at all.
no. And I don't know what the obsession with Lucas Black was, because he was also in Tokyo Drift like a year or two after this. Like, what were they seeing in this guy for a little bit? I'm glad that no hate, not too much hate against him, but like, I'm sorry, but you're just not him. Yeah. Billingsley, I thought he was actually pretty well done as well. Like the son, thought that some of those things were pretty cool, but he do be fumbling way too much. Like I agree with the father. Like hold on to the damn ball, dude. Deepwater Horizon. Yeah, yeah. He's like, oh, Mark Wahlberg. Dude, imagine Mark Wahlberg in this movie. That would have gone crazy. I think this is a different movie if he's in it. Yeah, Peter Berg. He also did the show as well, and he's redoing the show again. I don't think he's bad. Necessarily. He also like was in Hell or High Water as like a producer role and Wind River. The reason why he got this movie though was because his cousin wrote the book, so that's how he was able to get the movie adaptation directly to him, because he was related to the guy, which I thought that was interesting. Yep. Yeah, I do like the song that it's like going throughout the movie. I forgot. I'm trying to look up like what the song is. It's specifically called something. I think it's like Home or something. But I actually liked it a lot. But that's also because it's like constantly given throughout the show as well. So I think that kind of adds to it as well. Yeah, I think the main themes like I've been saying were that like everyone was telling them this is like the peak of your life, kind of like a generational trauma, like towards that town of like how football and everyone's life is around it. So like if you fail for it, you fail as like you're a failure, and like you'll never amount to anything greater than what you're living through right now. And that's kind of like hard as a teenager to be like, this is my peak of my life, and then like I got nothing else to look forward to for the rest of my life. That's what everyone keeps telling me. Thankfully, at the end, like it tells you like what all of them ended up going on doing. The Hispanic guy ended up doing the most, going to Harvard and then like becoming like a lawyer for that town. I was like, heck yeah! Barely saw him in the movie, but like, he became a lawyer. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think there was a lot of missed themes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What did you think, Alec?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. It was just a little bit, again, going back to like theme as well, just like they could have dove in a little bit deeper on some stuff. Like I also think that like the relationship between the running back and his dad was something that they really could have honed in on a little bit more, maybe just because like that's such a, like, I think interesting thing like to take away from, like, this dad's putting all this pressure on him, and like it really only got serious maybe a few times throughout the movie. So they could have done a little bit better with that aspect, but I thought the football scenes themselves were really good. They kind of showed like, when they were in the state championship playing at the actual like Houston like stadium. Like I thought that was pretty cool with how they were able to, especially like the last play when he's like, running off and like spinning around players and stuff like that. I thought that was a lot better than like something like All American, for example.
Oh, dude, All
Yeah,
American is yeah. Dude, All
yeah,
American is probably one of the worst football like shows of all time to like actually show how oh, he's a generational athlete and then just like rounds his corners on every route and then just looks slow. Man, dude, All American's horrible. Um I think somehow it works, but then it gets called back and then then he's like, you know what? Let's do a quarterback scramble on this next one. It's like, all right. Yeah.
yeah. Like just because you
But,
asked him now, he's gonna hold it.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much did. Yeah. Definitely has like a 2000s, like 10s, like drama aspect to it as well that you got to kind of like walk in like knowing with the show, but it still shows a lot of football and like it's still like high school like drama, but then it also gets into like the coach and the wife as well, which like in this movie, like Connie Britton plays the wife in the movie and the show, and she's so much better in the show. And like they actually go into like what it is like to be like a coach's wife and stuff compared to like this movie. She's just like clapping along the sideline. Yeah. Yeah. I gave it a 7.5 out of 10 or 75. It sounded like I wasn't like big high in this movie. I think this movie has more of a nostalgia effect on me as I like grew up watching it more so. Probably watch it like every year just because I think since the football scenes are so well done, that's why it's so rewatchable for me. And then like again, it's like one of those very rare like high school movies. This and like Remember the Titans that are just so well done, and probably like two of the most well done football movies ever.
It was overall, I thought it was pretty good. I just wish that we already hit on in a bunch, but basically just wishing that they develop a little bit more of the relationships, like the character development as well. I was kind of interested in me like that movie was like such a, you know, well faceted like player, and like he wasn't very humble at all. And then he tears his ACL, and then all of a sudden now he's like part of the team. Like I wish that they would have kind of went into that a little bit more. And I thought it was like still pretty good though. Like we were talking about the football scenes, I thought were really well done.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. So next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a sports draft, just of different sports. I'll say the categories first. So Oscar nominated football movies, basketball movies, baseball movies, random sport. So it can't be either of the three sports I just listed, or you can get really wild with some of these sports. A 30 for 30, a 30 for 30 show or like selection, and then wild card. So 7 different movies that we'll have to pick. It's going to be a snake style. So I'll do the wheel of random names to see who gets to go first. Wow, that's the first. I get to go first. Finally. And then we'll see. I think there is a lot. It's just interesting to see which way some people go. Well, you shouldn't have wished it because now you're second. And then Alec gets to go third. Cool. Okay. So I guess I'll go first. I did not expect to be going first. So I don't know if there's like a clear 101 because I think there's just so many different routes that you can go with this. So I'm going to go, let's go with football first because like we just said, I don't think there's that many great football movies, but I think this is the best one done. Remember the Titans. I think it's just because it's like one of the weaker categories out of all of them, which I was surprised by when I did like more review of like overall them. But yeah, I really like Remember the Titans. It's pretty cool because us three being from Northern Virginia, it was based off of school around that area. So when I played like in elementary school, we met people from that team actually. That was really cool. Like I have a printed like cutout of like their entire roster with it all signed from all their players. Like in middle school, I remember they made us like watch it every year pretty much before playing. Because it kind of show you like a team aspect of it. And then Denzel Washington's in it. So it's like, yeah, the movie's pretty good. Yeah. It's based off the 1980 season or like the Winter Olympics. Yeah. Kurt Russell's cooking on just straight gas the whole movie. It's my favorite role of his by far.
Cool.
All right, Alec.
So I'll go with baseball and also like Moneyball on this one.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of good baseball movies out there, especially kind of like more vintage ones, but Moneyball is such a cool movie to me just because it's kind of like a recent shot movie as Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and then definitely goes more into like the science behind it, and maybe more so you could even call it like an underdog story too, where I mean we see this nowadays where there's no salary cap in baseball, so definitely those smaller market teams have a hard time of trying to make it to the top, and the A's are probably a really good example of that just because of how small market they are. But I thought it was really cool, like throughout the movie, how they go back to Billy Bean and like how he was kind of brought up, like was told that he was going to be the best, and then wasn't really panning out as well as he thought he was going to be doing, and then just like the science behind it, I thought was really cool and like really kind of shook baseball, and it's really well directed in my opinion.
Yeah, I like this because the Guardians have been kind of taking this aspect of baseball and like ran with it since like the 2010s. And that's why they make the playoffs almost every year, but they're never probably going to win one because the Dodgers decide to just ruin baseball. Screw the Dodgers, screw the Yankees, screw the Red Sox, screw the Mets, all four of them. There needs to be a salary cap in baseball. But anyways, and
Okay, so I get to go again, right? Because it's steak. I'm gonna take an interesting one here. Hit me with the wild card, and I'm gonna take Invictus as my movie selection for the sports meet. I thought Invictus with Matt Damon about like apartheid and South Africa. Interesting story that a lot of people don't know about, like especially us being Americans and not really being around, like we're young. So, but if you
yeah,
watch the movie, I think it does a good job of how they bring sports into like you being a union with like a country and like bringing people together. And so, not only are we talking about like like sports movies, like the underdog story of the team and like the players on the team, but this I think does a really good job of like it brings together the whole country. So I thought that was pretty cool. And like, you know, uh, who Matt Damon plays as an actor, I think as the captain of like the rugby team, like definitely pretty, a lot of pressure on his
yeah.
shoulders, especially being white and having to do this for your country. So
Yeah, I really liked Invictus. It's not a very Hollywood style, like glorified movie because it's like straight up what happened with Nelson Mandela and all that. Morgan Freeman plays Nelson Mandela. Morgan Freeman was actually really well done as Nelson Mandela in that one. And then also like again rugby. I don't think there's really any other rugby films that I can think of. So it's definitely a unique sports movie when it highlights a sport that usually doesn't get highlighted.
yeah,
Yeah. 42, I think, is really well done. Chadwick Boseman is really good as Jackie Robinson. Pretty sure I saw this in theaters when it came out. It's really just an interesting, really well done story about his career. Cool. Okay. So where do I want to go with this? I'm going to go with Oscar nom, and I'm going to go with Rocky. Yeah. Rocky was nominated for Best Picture. The first one was such a good underdog story. They're coming out with a movie this year about the making of Rocky. So like how Sylvester Stallone got into that situation and his prep for it. That could either go really well or like be one of the dumbest movies ever made. I don't think it's going to be anything in between. I think it's either going to be really dumb or like really well done. But Rocky itself is such a good story. And then so many movies came out after that. And then also Creed was straight up based off of it as well. Cool. Rocky. Where do I want to go next? I'm going to go with random sport. And this may seem a little early because the movie came out last year, but I'm going to go with Marty Supreme. Nope. I don't think this is too early for it. For me, it was a 5-star film. I almost considered taking it right away, number one overall pick, but I love Marty Supreme. So well done. Timothy Chalamet is going to win it. Hopefully wins an Oscar this year for it. Alec, if you haven't seen this, I would definitely check it out.
yeah, for sure. I've heard good things about it. I still need to get around to watching it.
Well, it came out during COVID, didn't it? Yeah, that's why it was so big. LeBron's the GOAT.
Let's see. I'll get my football one out of the way. And even though it's not as true as it should be, I'm gonna go with The Blind Side. Unfortunately,
Mm,
I think recent,
that's a hot topic movie right
events.
there.
Yeah. I, a couple of years ago, nobody would have any issues with this movie, but because
Yeah,
of what's happened with the family, yeah. But I think the movie's really good. I mean, we'll just say it's real for the purpose of this, but like it's such a interesting way to like again show that football is more than just a game to some people, and like it does a really
yeah,
good job of showing like how somebody, if you just give them the right tools to succeed, that they can really put it out there and go
yeah.
for it.
I thought the movie itself was very interesting. How it starts off with like the recruiting, like allegations against him and all that against the family, and then like
Mhm.
they kind of just shrug it off as like, no, we really cared about him, and then like now we know that like it was completely against against violations, and how like Michael Orr himself got like no money from that movie. Yeah, the Tuohys are not good people, but Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for that movie, so good for her. I thought she was really good in it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. All right. Let me go with my Oscar nom now. I'm going to go with Ford versus Ferrari. I thought that was again, a sport that a lot of people don't really know about. Like people know about
Yeah,
racing, but the long distance racing is definitely something that a lot of people don't know about. And I like the competition and the rivalry aspect, not so much against like, two different people, but more so with like corporations and like trying to like, get their foot in the door, especially Ford with this kind of thing. And really the birth of like the Shelby, like kind of design for like Mustangs and stuff like that. I thought that was a cool story behind it.
yeah, yeah. They got 2 more years on the contract for Vegas. So last time, or when it happened this past year, we tried to go see it, and they do not let you like sit around and see it. Like you have to pay tickets for it. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that's just more worthwhile to watch on TV, just because you see it for like 2 seconds, and then they just do another lap, 2 seconds, another lap, 2 seconds, and it's like I don't. It's like kind of like UFC as well. Unless you can get super close to UFC, I don't see the point in going to those events. It's more fun to probably watch it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's also just so expensive as well. Like it's very in Vegas, especially.
All right, I'm gonna do my. Simply, no one's taken a basketball one yet because I think there is a lot of options for basketball. So I guess I'll just go with my baseball one first. I'm just picking nostalgia movies at this point. I'm gonna take The Sandlot for baseball.
Classic.
Yeah, it's just a classic. Uh, there's not much else to say to this movie. If you haven't seen it, then like I guess you just didn't have a childhood because I didn't even play baseball and I watched this movie all the time. It's just like a very summer type of movie as well. Cool. I guess for basketball, I'm gonna go with probably my favorite basketball one. I don't know. There's so many. I could either go into like a really dark one, and I'm gonna go with Coach Carter. I really like Coach Carter. I'll probably watch that every year. Samuel L. Jackson as Coach Carter himself goes really into like how he's trying to create men and not just basketball players. So I think really well done.
It's a good choice. Hey,
Okay.
I don't know what direction I want to go here for basketball. I think I'm going to go with the funny one. So I'm going to go with Semi Pro. I think the underrated Will Ferrell movie. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty funny overall. I love how he plays the owner and the coach, and a player, and like I think it's like
Jack,
hilarious and like
Jackie Moon. Jackie Moon.
and it's I love the scene, especially when they're learning how to do alley oop and they're like, "What the
Yeah.
heck was that?" Like, wow, I think that's a really good, a funny scene in my opinion. So the soundtrack for that movie too, pretty underrated. There's a lot of cool like hip hoppy disco kind of theme music, and so not to mention like it's in Flint, Michigan, and they're called the Tropics, which is just
Yeah.
hilarious.
Dude, Will
I'm gonna
Ferrell
go.
was like on a crazy stint for a little bit. He was just doing like different sports movies where he did basketball, he did like ice skating, he did Talladega Nights of NASCAR, and then he did Anchorman before all that. So he was just like going through like, let me just make fun of all these different types of jobs. Yeah. Yeah. What a character. I wish he would go back and do some stuff like that, but he's a little too old now.
Then for my second one, I'm gonna go with my 30 for 30. Kind of like The Last Dance. Something kind of interesting is the Redeem Team. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that, but yeah, the Redeem Team I think is really cool. Well done. A little bit more modern in terms of like the LeBron legacy. I thought that was really cool with how it was showing that U.S. is supposed to be number one in basketball. We're not doing it. Like we need to do this together. We come together. And I love how Kobe is kind of thought of as like a selfish player before, but then he goes on to Team USA and really just destroys that narrative and like is a team player first. That was cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the whole reason why I wasn't picked in 2004 was because I thought he was too selfish.
Yeah.
All right, Justin. Yeah, yeah. As a Cleveland Browns fan, I freaking hate this movie. Absolutely hate this movie with a passion. Kevin Costner does like a weird amount of like sports movies. When I was looking him up, a lot of baseball movies, but man, dude, come on, man. You had Jerry Maguire left, like Longest Yard, Invincible, and Rudy. Either one of those was better. Your draft taste horrible. Anyways, moving on. Trying to think of where I want to go with this, because I got wild card left. If I like really want to go out there and pick one, I think I'm gonna go for my 30 for 30 first with OJ, Made in America. Another one that kind of took over like popular culture when it first came out. I think this documentary style is a lot better than like the show that they came out with like Cuba Gooding Jr. and like the FX show that they did, like just simulating it all. The documentary like really dives deep into like the case and everything, and like OJ himself, and of like why he was. A lot of people were saying like OJ wasn't black, like that was like a big narrative around it, and I think this documentary really gets into it. I'm also like super into like true crime, so I think this kind of fits like my sports and true crime like itch really well. If you really want to know more about the case, I highly recommend it because there's a lot more than what meets the eye. Cool. I guess for wild card, I'm gonna go with the movie that I don't think either of you have seen, but it's based off of a USC. It's not actually based off a true story. It's like a made up one, but it has Joel Egerton and Tom Hardy in it, and it's called Warrior, and it's about like how this UFC's style like MMA tournament set up, and they're brothers, and it kind of like leads into like it's like a big money pot at the end of it, and I think it really dives deep into like their brotherly relationship and why they weren't close anymore, and then it's a super emotional ending. The fighting is super accurate as well. Highly recommend it. It is really good.
That's a movie that does a good job of showing like the theme of like not so much like a abusive father, but just like a like the relationship as like brothers and like going back and forth between the actual sport itself and then like the actual like behind the scenes and like what's actually going on. And so the ending of that movie I think is one of the best. I think I like the ending.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely counts as a sport. WWE technically counts as a sport. Can't believe you have draft day and Iron Claw. If that's what you want to call it. All right, it's your last pick, Alec. Random sport.
Random sport. Okay, so let's see. I might go with another racing movie, and the one I'm gonna pick is Rush. That's a movie that Chris Hemsworth does that kind of again shows the rivalry aspect and not so much between like corporations like Ford and Ferrari, but more so players. And so that one is a very interesting movie about like really the rivalry and like the almost like the psychological point behind it of like just chasing that high of like so I think that's a pretty underrated movie.
It very much is. I remember watching this on like a random like weekday, and I was surprised at how good it was. I really liked Rush. Cool. Do we want to do honorable mentions? Anything that yeah. You want me to shout them out, or you go Alec first?
Bourne versus McEnroe is one that I might have taken as well. If there's like more of an option. That is by far I think the best tennis movie I've seen. That's also like the rivalry and like the psychological like needing to win. That's a very well. I watch this movie probably once a year, so I like it a lot.
Emma Stone's in that, right?
Shia LaBeouf. I don't think Emma Stone is in.
I thought she was. Maybe I'm thinking of a different tennis movie.
No, she's not.
I think I'm thinking.
Yeah, but that's a good watch if you guys haven't seen it. Like even if you aren't really into tennis, it shows more like the psychological aspect of it. So.
Yeah, what about you, Justin? We both watched that. Because remember we had to watch it. We have camp. Yeah, I got a bunch. Oscar noms. I had The Fighter and King Richard. Both pretty well done. Fighter has Mark Wahlberg in it. Shout out Mark Wahlberg. He's in a bunch of sports movies as well. King Richard, Will Smith's first Oscar that he won after slapping Chris Rock. So that was interesting. Football, Jerry Maguire, I think is the biggest one. Justin, you haven't seen it. I think it's really well done. I think you would like it a lot because again, it talks about like more the agent side of stuff, about like how they make moves and stuff. And it like kind of turns into like a rom-com, but I think you would really like it just based off of the agent stuff. Gridiron Gang, which is like has The Rock in it, but it's about like this prison team. I thought that was also really well done. Basketball, He Got Game with Denzel Washington. Put that. It's a really dark movie about like how, because it also has, what's his name? Jesus Shuttleworth in it. What's his actual name in the league? Ray Allen. He plays like the son in this, and like he's like a great upcoming player. It's really well done. More Than a Game. It's a documentary style of LeBron's like high school season. Really cool to watch. We had to watch this in high school, like before each season. Thought that was really well done. Baseball, Hardball with Keanu Reeves. It's like where the kid gets shot and stuff, and it's really dark. But then like Keanu Reeves plays like a really like redeeming character. Random Sport, Karate Kid. Surprised that wasn't brought up at all. The 30 for 30s. My second favorite one is Survive and Advance. It's about NC State and Jimmy V winning like the NCAA tournament that year as the 8th seed and like the biggest upset of all time against Phi Slamma Jamma. As well as Fab Five. I think is another really good 30 for 31. And then the last wild cards that I'll point out, Challengers. It's a tennis movie that is like kind of just like an erotic, like romance movie. It's a little wild. I watched this with like a group of people I probably should not have watched it with, but I was like, wow, I don't think I should be watching this with this many people around. And then the other one being September 5 about like the Munich Olympics, I think it was, and there was like hostages, like a hostage crisis with like them holding Israeli. Like, dude, it's really well done. I was afraid to draft it because it's based around the Olympics, but it's not like there's no sports in it. Like it's just about like the news station and how they handled the scenario. I do think it is an intriguing watch. But cool, awesome. Well, thanks for coming out, Alec. Hopefully you had some fun just talking about football movies.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Definitely pretty cool talking about the problems I think with Rudy and
Yeah.
but Notre Dame, but Seahawks
Okay.
are winning. Yeah.
I think Seattle's gonna win. If I take it to guess for the score, 31-17. Yeah. I think first half may be close, but then Seattle's just the better team. There's the better team.
Sam Darnold's
Yep. Vikings already fired their GM because they're like, man, why did you move on from Sam Darnold for number 9?
yeah for 9. So
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. See you next week.
peace out.